So now we're going to look at implementing the equality operator for time, for the time class, for time objects, and also the less than. We could go crazy and do less than and equal to, less than or greater than or equal to, but I'm just going to do one as an example, and then you can do the others as exercises. So what I want to be able to do in main is I want to be able to compare time objects. I want to be able to say something like, if time object T1 is equal to some other time object, let's say T2, then I can say cout, they're equal. Something like that. Of course, I could also say not equal to by adding the not sign, and you can figure out how less than would work. Now, eventually, we're going to learn about operator overloading, and I'll be able to actually use the equality operator here instead of actually calling the equal method, but this is kind of setting us up. So I need to add these definitions to my class definition for time, and of course, these are going to be public methods. So somewhere in the list of public methods, I'm going to want to define this method. So first of all, it evaluates to a Boolean, so the return type is bool. The name of the method, of course, is equal. And I'm passing in a time object. T2 is a time object. Again, for the same rationale I discussed with the add method, instead of passing this by value, I want to pass it in as a constant reference. And finally, because equal is not going to change the T1 object, and of course, the fact that I'm passing in T2 here as a constant means that T2 won't change. But since equal will not change T1, I want to declare this as a constant method. Less than is going to be exactly the same. It will evaluate to a Boolean. I'll call it less than. I want to pass in a constant reference to a time object. And less than will not change anything about T1, so I'm going to declare it constant. So now let's look at the implementations of these methods. So in my methods, I define it to return bool. It's a method of the time class. It's called equal, and then I have my parameter. And don't forget that you have to repeat the constant keyword in the implementation and in the definition of the object. So how do I know if two time objects are equal? So here's T1 and T2. And if this is 15 and 13, and this is 15 and 13, and let's say I have another one 15 and 37, and then I have another one called 7 and 45. So first of all, they're equal if the hours are equal and the minutes are equal. And you can just do these checks. They both have to be the same, so you don't even have to look at them separately. We'll look at them separately when we do less than. So if hours, and it's this hours, the hours of the object to which the method belongs, if hours is equal to the hours of the object that's coming in as the parameter, which is time, hours, and if the minutes are the same too. And again, I don't have to use the get method here, because since these are objects of the same type, I can just refer directly to the private data members. So if this is true, I can return true. Otherwise, I want to return false. Just like that. And if I wanted to make this a little shorter, I could have just returned this expression. I could have just returned that expression. So another way of writing this method would just be to say return hours is equal to time dot hours and minutes is equal to time minutes. So I could have just replaced that. So now let's look at the implementation of less than. So now what we have to do is if we go back and we look at our examples, now we have to, so certainly if the hours is, if this hours are less than the hours of the parameter, then we can conclude that, this is less than the other. But if they're the same, then we actually have to go and check the minutes. So that's what we're going to do first. So if these hours are less than the hours of the object being passed in, the hours of this object, right? Then I can just return true. Now, if this is not true, then this must mean that either the hours are the same or they're equal to each other. So now I need to check if the hours are equal to each other. Now if I know that they're equal, then this object's minutes must be less than the parameter's minutes. So I can say so if this statement is true, then I can return true. But if I reach this point, then I have to return false. So that's an implementation of the less than operator. Well, actually a method called less than. We're going to look at how to implement the less than operator.